Hi, and welcome to today's Your Author program. I'm Kevin Alcuni, adult librarian for the Exploration and Creativity Department of the Los Angeles Public Library, and I'm here with my colleague, young adult librarian Oscar from the Will and Ariel Durant Branch Library. It is our pleasure to host your author series today. Please feel free to use the chat box to communicate your thoughts, comments, and questions anytime. Also, please email ecdepartment@lapl.org to be entered into an opportunity to win Flamer by Mike Curato. Put your author, Mike Curato /Flamer in the subject line.
We want to thank our generous donors, the Lenore S and Bernard A. Greenberg Fund, and the Library Foundation for helping the library bring these amazing author and illustrator programs to all of you. Today, we have the pleasure of hosting young adult author Mike Curato. Writer and illustrator Mike Curato has won several awards for his acclaimed Little Elliot series, which has been translated into over 10 languages. He received the Founders Award from the Society of Illustrators Original Art Show in 2014 and has worked with Trudy Ludwig, Margarita Engel, Eric Carl, and many more. In 2021, Mike's debut young adult graphic novel, Flamer, was awarded the 2021 Lambda Literary Award for LGBTQ Young Adult and a 2021 Golden Kite Award honor for Illustrated Book for older readers by the Society of Children's Books Writers and Illustrators. In addition to being a youth literature luminary, Mike is also a connoisseur of cupcakes and ice cream. Welcome, Mike.
Yay!
Hey guys, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, of course.
All right, now that we're started, I guess we'll just kind of start off with the Q&A part. And then I'll lead it off. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your graphic novel, Flamer? We would love to hear you read a passage from the book if possible.
Sure. A little bit about me. We got the important parts, like how I eat cupcakes. Although it's definitely ice cream time of year, so that's my number one priority. Very excited that my favorite soft serve stand is opening this weekend.
All right.
Finally. And what else? Yes, I write books for really young folks and for young adults. And I love what I do. And my most recent book, Flamer, which we're talking about today, is very near and dear to my heart. And I selected just a short passage to read because it's a little awkward reading a graphic novel
Sure.
virtually. But this is the page that I'm reading from. And basically, just a quick overview of the book. Flamer is about a 14-year-old chubby Filipino white mixed kid who's away at a scout camp in the summer of 1995, the summer before he starts high school, and he is dealing with friendships and bullying and body dysmorphia and questions about his religion and racism, and all that is the backdrop to Aiden discovering his sexual identity. And so this is a passage that I think sums up what Aiden is struggling with right now. I know I'm not gay. Gay boys like other boys. I hate boys. They're mean and scary, and they're always destroying something or saying something dumb or both. We learned at school how bad homosexuality is. It's a sin. Gay people do bad things. And I'm not a bad person. I try to do good all the time. So I couldn't be gay. And just a short passage, but I think carries a lot of weight. And that's definitely represents my personal thinking when I was 14 and struggling with my own identity. So
Yeah. It seems like it's a pretty personal and meaningful kind of passage that you just kind of read. Yeah.
It was definitely triggering for me. It made me think of my experiences during that time as well.
Right.
I guess my main first question for you is, what do you want readers to take away from your books?
I mean, for Flamer, I would like to, I guess I should say, I made this book because I didn't have a book like this when I was 14, right? This is the book that I wish that I had when I was 14 and struggling with all those things that I just mentioned. And though we've made some progress in our society, there's still a lot of work to be done. And there's still a lot of places that, treat LGBTQ people as second-class citizens. So it's almost like we're still living in 1995 in certain parts of our country. And I wrote this book because I know there are young people out there who are going through the same things I did, 25 years ago. Oh gosh, that 25 years ago. Ouch. Anyway, so basically I want those folks to feel seen and validated, and I want them to know that they're not alone. And I just want this story to serve as a sort of beacon of hope and a life raft until they find their community. I mean, that was the changing point for me when I found an accepting group of people who understood me and accepted me. And yeah. So I also hope that it would serve as a window for people that don't have an LGBTQ experience, whether that be like young people who are still, are heterosexual, who, don't know much about queer culture, or, like grown-ups, especially educators who work with youth. I hope it provides some kind of insight to what that experience is like. So hopefully it will inspire some compassion in some people.
Yeah, I would just kind of coming back to that point. I always feel like the best kind of stories are the stories that make people feel like they're not alone with their feelings, and to kind of, to just know that it's not just you, but there's a whole world out there. And those are always the best kind of stories, because it makes you feel like you're not alone with those feelings and those thoughts. So it's just really cool. And then kind of following up on that is, I guess you kind of mentioned already, but what's something you're proud of in this book? Like, what's something that you feel really joyful about?
I'm really proud to have a Filipino queer main character. Filipinos are the second largest Asian population in America, and you would never know it because we're really underrepresented in all forms of media here. So that's something I'm very proud of. I want more Filipino stories, Filipino American stories, and I don't know. I'm proud to add to the growing number of queer books for youth. I mean, I think that queer youth are really underserved in literature, and obviously my book isn't can't be like the only one. And we have more than, in the last 10 years, like it's grown exponentially, I think, but still compared to the amount of heteronormative books that youth have to choose from, it's still kind of a drop in the bucket. So I'm a part of what I hope this book does is inspire other people to write their stories and add to that growing collection.
Yeah, super cool.
One thing that I found really interesting about your book is that there is no relationship in the book with like between two guys or an LGBTQ relationship. I read a lot of LGBTQ literature, especially young adult, because I'm a young adult librarian, and it seems like there's always a relationship that has to take place in the book, but yours doesn't really have that. And so I was wondering if that was an intentional choice, or was it more of a natural sort of um, way that you chose to write?
Absolutely, and I kind of agree. I do find a lot of queer YA centering around a relationship, but I have a bunch of feelings. First of all, it was my own personal experience that I didn't have a relationship with another man until I was in my 20s. And I think that's pretty common for a lot of queer folks. There are people that are isolated and, don't have other queer folks around to date even, or, who obviously, I should say, there aren't other out people for them to date. And also, even when you're out, I mean, there were many times in my life where I was like perpetually single, and just because someone doesn't have a relationship, that doesn't, a relationship does not define who you are. So this is a story more about self-discovery and loving oneself, because I think kind of an overdone narrative is that we are only valuable when we find someone to love us, and I disagree with that. I really think our number one job is to learn to love ourselves, and if you find someone to love, that's fantastic. I'm here for it, but I think especially in the gay community, there's so much self-hatred that it's just so important to focus on the relationship that you have with yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Kind of just talking about you as a writer for a minute. Was there a moment in your life when you realized that you had to be a writer, that you had no choice but to write and kind of be creative in that way? Can you talk about that moment a little bit?
Sure. While I've always written stories, like even when I was little, it's the art that's actually been like my first love and greatest passion. But my art has always been very narratively driven. And so I would draw, I would paint, I would write. And it occurred to me when I was younger, like, oh, maybe I could write books. But also I was thinking about lots of things. Maybe I'll animate for Disney. Maybe I'll make comic books. Maybe I'll become an actor.
Right. Sure. All the things.
All the things. I'm going to be a tap dancing psychologist one day, who also paints. So watch out, Bob Ross. Well, R.I.P. But so when I got older, I always knew I wanted to make art, right? And when I got to college, my first year, everyone at art school does the same foundational stuff, and then you decide towards the end of the year what your major or concentration will be in. And I had a professor who just like highly recommended that I go into illustration, and I really did discover that, oh yeah, this makes total sense. Like I'm all about storytelling with my art, and I love to write. And I mean, that's when I rediscovered my love of children's books, of picture books, because I was looking at, you mentioned the Society of Illustrators earlier during the introduction, and they put out an annual of, contemporary illustration work. And all the work that I was really drawn to it was all coming from the publishing world, specifically children's. And so I just rediscovered my love of it, and kind of saw the complexities that art condensed into these tiny stories. There's just so much packed into a picture book, and I just love that medium so much. But also, I love comic books, and I read comic books as a teenager, and honestly, like, I was not the best reader kind of in middle school. So, like, you know, when we graduated from picture books, you know, I was kind of like, you know, chapter books was like, okay. And then once we started reading like novels and stuff, I was like, this is like, I'm bored. Like, this is too many words. Like, I didn't understand why we had to get rid of the pictures, right? And I still don't understand, honestly. But so comic books, though, were exciting. I was big surprise, a huge X-Men fan, and I give a lot of shout outs in the book to the X-Men.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Was it that Dark Phoenix run that you kind of really got into? Yeah, because me too. Same time.
Yeah,
I was not a strong reader in middle school, but and I didn't have a TV growing up, so all I had were several large boxes of comics, and that was how I passed the time. Was just reading the same thing. So,
and kind of like when I was in college, people were experimenting more with the graphic novel medium, and it started expanding beyond superhero comics, which I still love. But you know, people like Art Spiegelman were creating Mouse, and you know, just these hard-hitting stories told through this medium that were so impactful, and then that was very inspiring. So I kind of realized in college, I'm like, I know I want to make books. I want to make all different types of books. And so I had a sort of dedication then to getting into publishing. And it took me 10 years out of college before I got my first picture book deal. And then it was a year or two after that I sold this book.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it took years to make, and it had to keep. There was a lot of stop and go, so it had to keep going on the back burner at times. So yeah, so it's finally here. What a labor of love.
For sure. What? Just real quick, what did you do during that 10-year period when you were kind of growing as an artist?
Yeah, well, first I poured coffee, and then I worked in an art store, and then I got a job as or actually before that, I got an internship with a graphic design firm. I was living in Seattle, and these folks just took a chance on me. You know, I had like a illustration portfolio. I had no design experience. So these women, you know, took a chance, and like I interned there for almost a year. And I learned so much. And so I just thought of it as free school because it was unpaid. So I'm like pouring coffee, I'm selling paint, I'm like learning about design. And then I got a job as an office administrator in a creative staffing agency. And so I learned more about the design industry by, you know, answering phones and helping them screen talent. I was basically their Pam from The Office. And then I basically had to quit that job so they could hire me. It's kind of funny. So after a year there, I left the position, and then they started placing me as a talent. So I would do temporary stuff. And then I went full time at Cranium, the board game company.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so then I just worked as a graphic designer for like, I think it was like 8 years until I finally broke into publishing, and there was some overlap. But I realize now, you know, I mean, I was so upset that I couldn't get book deals like early out of school, but now like with 10 years of experience doing graphic design before getting into publishing, it was invaluable, right? Because that really informed a lot of decisions I made with the illustration, with the design of the book,
right?
Even with the pacing. It's amazing how connected the illustration, design, and writing are for me. So,
right. Yeah, that must have been pretty cool to just kind of build up your skill set until you can keep leveling up, so to speak. So
right.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Oscar.
Oh, all right. Since you've talked a bit about your personal and professional past, I was just wondering what's one thing that you'd like to tell your younger self if you had the opportunity to do so?
So many things. So many things. You know, I mean, the catty part of me will be like, oh, let's not wear that today. Or like, really, that haircut? You know, I mean, I was adorable, but like kind of like helpless adorable, like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. So I kind of want to be like an auntie to my younger self, but really, I really struggled with my self-confidence, and so I think I would just reassure myself, like, you've got this, you know, just keep going. And I feel very lucky that I knew I had a talent. I knew that, I mean, my artwork is what I had that made me special, and that's what I really clung to.
Yeah.
On my darkest days. And you know, some people mistakenly refer to Flamer as memoir, and while it's very much based on my experience, it's still fictional. And I purposely, you know, Aiden and I are very much alike, but we are also very different. And Aiden hasn't yet discovered what his special talent is, and I think that's true for most people that age, where we don't know what we're good at. And I've discovered other things that I'm good at since I was a kid. And I know that now I know that while my art is a gift, it doesn't, that's not where all of my value lies as a human being. So anyway, yes, I would tell younger me, yes, keep going with the art, but also you deserve to be here regardless of how well you are at that.
Yeah, super cool. I guess kind of following up on that, who were your role models when you were growing up? Who were some of the people that you kind of looked up to at that time?
Besides Jean Grey,
but not the Dark Phoenix, because she had a whole world.
You know, yeah, I mean, problematic.
It is
canceled.
Not the best book.
So yeah, role models. Let me think. I mean, it's hard to remember who I looked up to when I was 14. I mean, I guess there were like some older kids, maybe in my scout troop that I looked up to. I remember that, and my scoutmaster, I very much looked up to. I can't really think of like celebrity people that I really looked up to.
Okay, well, maybe something will come back later if it comes back. Yeah,
I was obsessed as a young child with MacGyver.
Oh yeah.
And I wrote this long letter to Richard Dean Anderson, and then I put in an envelope. I'm like, right. I was like, Mom, where does Richard Dean Anderson live? So he didn't get my letter. But
no, you don't think so? You don't think he just threw it in there and it just MacGyvered its way to him somehow?
Right. I'm like, wait, maybe if I wait till Christmas, he'll put it on my Christmas list for Santa to deliver it, because he has his address, obviously.
Foolproof plan. Plan. Okay, Oscar, go ahead.
So switching gears a little bit, June is, of course, Pride Month. Happy Pride. I'm sorry I didn't tell you earlier.
Happy Pride.
I was just wondering what Pride means to you and how do you like to celebrate it? And also with the pandemic, it's kind of put a damper on things. And I was just wondering how it's affected how you celebrate Pride.
Yeah. Well, I guess first of all, Pride for me is it's about celebrating our community, right? I mean, we need each other. And I'm constantly inspired by our queer forebearers who fought like the hardest fight for visibility, right? And obviously, I mean, people are still dying. People are still having their rights taken away from them. But I mean, it took some really strong people to live out in the open and demand to be heard. So I don't know. I mean, every Pride, what I'm most grateful for are those ancestors and remembering their stories, but also my present day community, because I do feel that in different places I've lived, like I have these queer communities who have supported me, and who I hope they feel supported by me. And I don't know how I would make it without them. And I think as queer people, we know and appreciate the value of chosen family. So that's definitely something I celebrate as well. So it's kind of, it's like a family holiday, you know? And last Pride was very uneventful, but let me tell you, I created my own miniature Pride club happening in my art studio. Oh. I had, I made like a little, like a reel for Facebook, and basically it was like all of my stuffed animals and tchotchkes and like everything like shoved into this corner. Like the RuPaul doll was there, like all the who's who, Tina from Bob's Burgers. And I had like a mirror ball, and like Chromatica was bumping. It was happening, so that was my Pride last year. This year I am going to be in New York City on Pride weekend. Although I have, and I've never been away from New York as long as I've been. Like, I haven't been in a year and a half, which is insane. Like, I grew up outside the city. I'm used to being, I lived in Brooklyn for years. Like, I don't know. So I'm curious how I'm going to be re-emerging into the city after like being in solitary confinement for so long. So I may do some light Pride activities. But I mean, just more importantly, I'll be with my people, with my friends. So
your community.
Yeah. So that's what I'm most excited about.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm just going to kind of switch gears for a minute and kind of talk about your Boy Scout background, as it's talked about in Flamer. So how many knots? Well, it's two parts. So how many knots do you remember from being a Boy Scout is the first one. And do you remember the Boy Scout pledge?
I think you mean the oath and law.
Yes, that's right. That's why I'm not an Eagle Scout.
You're trying to test me.
I know, I'm not. It's my own Boy Scout ignorance.
Okay, so knots. We've got, classic square knot, right?
That's the only one I remember.
Reliable.
Yeah.
I love a clove hitch.
See, I don't remember anything else.
The bow line, that's the one with the bunny running around the tree.
The bunny, yes.
Remember her?
And it goes down the hole.
And then, just all the lashings are very, very useful. So and there's some other ones that I can't remember. I know there's a timber hitch, but I don't remember how to do it.
Man, yeah.
That's the one. It's kind of like a noose where
Right. I don't think I could ever do that one, even as a Boy Scout. Like, I had to have older kids. I was mainly just like the square knot, because I was like right over left, left over right, and then that was it. But like everything else is out the door.
That's the one you need.
Yeah, that's the one I use. Yeah.
So.
And do you still remember the Boy Scout law and oath?
Oath and law. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. All right. Ready? Okay.
Yeah.
On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, and to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
Oh.
A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
Wow. Yeah, okay.
Brainwashed. I still got it. Yeah.
That's so great. All right. Go ahead, Oscar.
What's a book that you love that you think might surprise people to learn that you really like?
What I love to read are biographies of women in power back in the day. So basically, like a queen regnant is a bop for me. So, for example, I love Alison Weir. She's a historian and a novelist. So she writes biographies of, like, you know, any English, any famous English female monarch or noble, basically. And she's written about other monarchs in English history. But then she also, like, writes all these novels. So, for example, she's written a novel for all of Henry VIII's wives. And so anyway, I mean, I don't know if that's surprising or not, but that's kind of a nerdy thing I love to get into. I really love history. I love just I find that really good nonfiction history is quite narrative, actually.
Mhm.
I love, I think her name is Nancy Goldstone. She's written some really awesome biographies, and I think almost always about, like, female protagonists. So she's written about Joan of Arc and the woman behind her.
Oh, the
She's
woman
written-
behind Joan of Arc.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
She it was this like duchess who's
What?
basically like, yes. Oh, it's called the Maid and, is it the Maid and the Queen or not? I don't think it's the Queen. Look up Nancy Goldstone.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds crazy.
There's
I didn't-
something about a maid in it. Wait, let me see.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, let's see. It is the Maid and the Queen.
Oh, okay.
Oh snap! Okay, the secret history of Joan of Arc. So that's cool.
That's great.
And she also she's written a bunch of other ones, but my other favorite one, well, there were two that I love. There's one called, is it The Four Queens or something like that? But basically it's about these four Provençal sisters who come from a noble family, but they all became queens of Europe. Like they all ended up marrying kings, and they're all sisters. Is that crazy?
What?
Yeah. So one became Queen of England, one became Queen of France, one became Empress of the Holy Roman Empire, and the other one became Queen of, I think, Naples or something like that. And then she has another book called The Lady Queen, which is about Joanna the First of Naples, who was, I think, the first queen regnant in Europe. So the first woman to rule in her. And wow, what a rough story. Anyway, are you surprised? I don't know.
No. Is there a particular era of history that you like, or you just kind of interested more in, like, the concept of, like, the book?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I mean, I guess it just depends. Yeah.
Yeah, I worked at a bookstore, so it just for a long time before I became a librarian. So you would find, like, sometimes when things are illuminated for you, like, oh, I didn't know that, and that's kind of what piques your interest, so that kind of thing. So I totally get it.
There are other history books too that kind of encompass many ages. It's more like a cultural study. Like there's a book called The History of the Philippines, which was, like, really illuminating for me. Like I think I read it in my maybe my late 20s. And I just learned so much about my own culture that I didn't even know. And so that started in pre-colonial times up to the present. So there was a lot to learn.
Yeah. I guess just kind of following up on that, just going back a little bit into your past again. What were some of your favorite books? Well, you kind of mentioned X-Men, but as a teenager, like books, authors, music, movies, TV shows as a teenager, like what were some of the things that you were really into back then?
Yeah, I mean, so as I said, like I wasn't huge into reading when I was maybe in middle school, but in high school I had some teachers that I don't know, I got into some of the books that they shared with us, and so Toni Morrison.
Wow, in high school?
Yeah,
Whoa.
which now looking back, I'm just like, wow, y'all were really
Because that's a pretty challenging book, I would
challenging,
imagine.
and it's a very grown-up book.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, we read Jazz and Beloved. Beloved blew my mind.
Oh my God.
Beloved kind of took me to a place that I'd never been before with reading. And it was, in thinking about writing and reading, it was inspired. And then just thinking about it in terms of this country and our history and our culture, like, it was a lot to grapple with. But I was like entranced by that book. And what else did I love?
What about music?
I was a big grunge fan.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so like, and that was like middle school is when I kind of had my musical awakening, and started listening to the radio, and I was like, oh my God. So, you know, like Weezer, Nirvana, I was listening to like Counting Crows.
Sure. In 95.
Yeah, but then also like angry chick music was like, that was my jam. I mean, I'm still an avid like Fiona Apple fan. Like, she is mother for me. I don't know if I would call her like I don't know if she's angry chick per se. She's, you know, she is the sullen girl, but like,
sure.
But you know, Tori Amos, Ani DeFranco, Alanis, like all those kind of like alternative divas. I was like
PJ Harvey,
so
that kind of.
But then also, but then also I love the pop divas. Like, I mean, Madonna was still Empress of all, and like, I just basically, if there was a female vocalist, I was there for it. But but the male grunge folks, I was really into.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Oscar.
So what are you currently reading? And are you a completionist, or do you kind of jump from book to book when you're reading?
You know, it kind of, it depends on my mood. Sometimes I just have to finish a book and I can't pay attention to anything else. And then sometimes I do kind of skip around. Right now, I feel like I am very like, I am reading several books at the same time. Okay, so right now I'm reading It Goes Like This by Neil Moreland, and we're having a conversation with each other later this month for Pride. I'm reading Thirsty Mermaids, which is a graphic novel. So I'm kind of like halfway through that. That might be more adult than teen. Gosh, I just finished reading The Dutch House by Anne Patchett.
Oh, how was that?
It was gorgeous. Like, it's a very kind of like quiet book. But there's all this underlying drama that's just like, you know, and I just love the imagery of it. I don't know. Yeah, she's amazing. What else have I read lately? I listen to a lot of audiobooks, like while I'm drawing. So,
do you find you can kind of retain? Because I find sometimes when you do an audiobook, you kind of, you know, you're listening in one way, you know, and it depends on whether or not you're being a passive listener or an active listener.
Yeah.
So sometimes do you find like the book has kind of happened and you're like, wait, what happened? And then, or do you find like you're kind of tuning in at all times?
So I pay attention. If I realize that I'm not sure what the narrator just said a minute ago, I'll stop.
Gotcha.
And put music on instead.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
other times, I think it depends. If I'm busy thinking, trying to figure something out, I'm not going to pay attention. But if I'm like working on a drawing where I'm like doing busy work basically,
Sure.
where the thinking's kind of done,
Mhm.
and I'm more like just in Zen mode, then I can really pay attention. And it's interesting because I have associations now. Like if I open up any of my books and look at certain images, I think of the book I was listening to when
Oh,
I was
crazy.
working
Yeah,
on that.
yeah.
So I mean, this book is thick, right? So I listened to a lot of books while making this. So, but it's interesting because I'll flip through and I'll like, for example, I just thought of one, so I'm trying to find the page to show it. But okay, here it is. So like this page right here, I always think of Norse mythology by Neil Gaiman.
Oh my God, I'm just reading the comic book of that, but yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen the comic book.
Oh, it's beautiful.
But I was so into it. I love mythology. That's the other thing I loved in high school. I actually loved. We had to read the Odyssey and the Iliad.
Oh, in high school?
In high school, yeah.
Wow.
And lots of different Greek and Roman mythologies.
Yeah, yeah.
And we had to read about other mythologies too, but there was an emphasis on that. And we read Beowulf and stuff. And
Wow.
but there was something really appealing, I think. I think what the crossover is like the gods were like superheroes. So I think it appealed to my comic book sensibilities. Gotcha. Although the language was very like mystifying. I'd be like, what? So like we'd have to read passages, but then I think there was an accompanying text which basically like summarized what happened. And I was just more about the story, not about like iambic pentameter.
Sure.
It's just like, okay, but
right. Especially in something like the Odyssey, where it's just like so much description because it was an oral history, if I recall. So they had to like, on the shield there was a goat that came from this land that was owned by this person. After a while, you're like, wow, what's really going on about this shield?
Right. It's like, so this is significant, I hope. Oh my God. You know what 2 books I read while I was working on Flamer were Madeline Miller's books, Song of Achilles and Circe. Those
Circe is fantastic.
Circe is fantastic. Like they're incredible. I read Circe twice because I'm just like, this, really good. I love this. And I'm like champing at the bit. I'm like, come on, girl. Like, where's the next book? Like, I'm dying over here. Yeah.
Yes. Circe was fantastic.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Oscar. Or was it my turn? I can't remember.
It's your turn.
Is it my turn? All right. What other genres would you write in? Or would you experiment in?
Yeah. I am trying to write middle grade graphic novel right now. And also trying to write something that's new adult. So yeah, I just want to try everything. Yeah, I just think, to me, the story is what's important, right? So focus on writing the story you want to make, and then you can figure out like what category it fits into.
Right.
Yeah.
When you're doing something like that, when you're having different categories, how does that process work for you? Like, do you set aside time, or is it like inspiration driven, or is it just like part of your process to kind of sit down and work through it? How does that kind of work out when you're trying different things like that?
Yeah, I mean, it all starts with like some kind of kernel of inspiration, I think. I mean, Flamer, I didn't really say like, obviously like the story doesn't just appear.
For sure.
I knew like, oh, I should write something about being closeted and a teenager, And then it was like, oh, maybe it could be at Scout camp because that was such a relevant part of my life. And then it's just, it just starts snowballing, like thinking about different topics you want to cover and experiences that you've had or have heard about. Yeah. And then when I thought of the title, then it was like very apparent what the visual thread would be, right? So then I started thinking about all of these different visual aspects, like symbols that I could weave into the book that were still relevant. Yeah. So, and I have to say, the visual element, I think, is what helped me write this the most. To have that kind of visual thing to reference all the time. I've been struggling writing one of these books because there isn't that visual thread just yet. It hasn't
come out.
Revealed itself to me, or it may not be so obvious. It may not be like, this book has fire in it. It's not like my next book is like, and this one has water. Because I'm going to run out of elements eventually.
I mean, there's only 4, so yeah. I guess you got 3 more, and then you got to come up with something else.
6th element is invisible. 5th element is
right. He's stretchy.
In outer space.
Right, and then the other one is made out of rocks, and then the other one is made out of fire. We call it the Fantastic Four, but not that.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, for me, so right now, one of the new books I'm working on is it's relying on memory, it's relying on interviews, it's yeah, and it's gay.
So since you talked about go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just gonna, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, since you've talked about being a writer, I was wondering if you weren't a writer, what job would you have instead?
Oh God, I don't know. Would I be a baker? I'd probably get fired for eating everything. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I used to think something like Broadway would be exciting, but I love to sing, but it's like, I actually don't have that kind of voice. So, acting sounds interesting. Like, I think that would be cool. But yeah, I don't know. I'm like, what else am I good at? Yeah, I don't know. I would like to think that I could be a teacher, but I don't know if I could. Like, that's really hard. Yeah, maybe I could be a librarian. I love books, and I like helping people. So,
all right, we have a couple of listener questions.
Okay, great.
So I'll show them down there, and then I'll read them out loud. So, what upcoming projects are you working on? So we kind of talked about that, but if you want to,
in addition to the new manuscripts I'm working on that are both graphic novels, I'm illustrating a picture book right now written by Christian Trimmer called "What Are You?" And it's about being mixed race. So that I'm very excited about. And I've got a few other picture book manuscripts that I'm working on. So there are some things in the hopper.
Okay.
There's a book, actually, I just finished illustrating that I also wrote, but it hasn't been announced yet. So stay tuned. But it's coming out. Coming out in January. So.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Wow, that's pretty soon.
I know. Yeah. There's some reasons why we haven't announced yet, but very soon.
Okay. Here's one from Lauren. Did you enjoy taking a break from picture books and writing for a teen audience? I hope you continue to write for teens. I love Flamer.
Thank you so much, Lauren. You know, it was great. But also I didn't get that long of a break because I had to illustrate the power of one while I was illustrating Flamer. So it was a lot. But there were months of time where it was just very Flamer focused. So basically I kind of worked on half the book, then had to like do Power of One and then get back to Flamer. But it was refreshing. And it was very cool writing in this new format. Picture books, you know, it's a very restricted format, right? You can make a 32-page book, or you can make a 40-page book. Maybe you can make a 48-page book. That's it. So, and you have to shove all of your story into that somehow. And this, it's like, oh, just you could just keep on going. And at a certain point, I'm like, oh, this book is never going to end. But it was exciting to be able to kind of like push out and like really expand on things. So whereas picture books are so condensed, this was like a nice opportunity to like just really let it out and drill down into things more specifically when I wanted to.
Gotcha. Yeah. I'll put a question up, then I'll have Oscar because I feel like I've been monopolizing.
No worries. All right. So the question is, who would you love to collaborate with?
Oh, who would I love to collaborate with? Can I make a graphic novel with Trixie and Katya, please? Like, I mean, what's wrong with them? I love them so much. They're insane in the best possible way. So that would be fun. I guess existing people, I don't know. I mean, there are just so many amazing folks. I love, it'd be amazing to work with Kate DiCamillo. I love her. God, who else? I don't know. This is hard.
Sorry. Yeah, if something else comes up, no worries.
Yeah.
And then I just want to mention, everybody, all the viewers, that if you email the EC department at lapl.org, you'll have a chance to win Flamer. So free books for anybody who just emails. So just type it out there for the email and get a free book.
Yes, and I think I'm going to give some away on my Instagram also. So if you follow me at Mike_Curato, I think I have 5 codes to give away, and I'll post it in my stories.
Yeah. Right, and those will get mailed to the viewers out there. So just email. All right, Oscar, maybe ask a couple more.
Sure. So Cesar asks, you mentioned baking. What is your favorite thing to make and to eat?
Oh, okay. Well, are we having dinner, dessert? What do you want? Okay. Well, for dinner, I love making chicken adobo, which is a traditional Filipino dish. So good, and I love surprising non-Pinoy people with it when they're like, "Okay, yeah, chicken," and they're like, "What am I eating? This is amazing!" I'm like,
it is.
And then for dessert, let's see, what did I like the most this past winter? I made this coconut cream pie that was like stupid good. I mean, I can't like invent baking recipes. Like cooking, you can kind of like, oh, I'm throwing this together and that, but like baking, I just go to the experts and I read the recipe and I do it.
Right.
So I think that one was, okay, the 2 cookbooks that I was working with this winter were Flour by Joanna Chang. I hope I'm remembering her name right. And then Sweet, I think. And I can't remember the author's name. Yeah. Bad. But yeah, it was like a coconut cream pie with a lime, like whipped cream topping.
Oh.
That was good. And then I also made. I remember combining 2 recipes from each cookbook, and I made red velvet cupcakes for my friends for Valentine's Day. So those were the Valentines, like leaving a cupcake on the doorstep.
Oh, that sounds so nice.
Yeah.
All right, Oscar, I think we have one more question I'm going to put up for you.
Yeah, we have time for one more. All
Yeah.
right, Maria asks, what advice would you give to a teen who is considering writing as a career? College bound in a year. Yikes.
Yikes. Oh, I love college. I was so ready to, like, senior year of high school, I'm like, why am I still here? Oh, sorry, someone's just trying to get in my room. Wrong door. Anyway, so what was I just talking about? Oh, yes. Okay, you're going to college and you're thinking about being a writer. Here's my advice. Just read. Like, keep reading. Read. Try reading new things that you don't know anything about. And just write whatever you feel like writing about. This is such a great time because, here's the nice thing about not being published is that there's less pressure on you, right? To like, I have to write a manuscript to sell in the next 2 months. So quick brain, be amazing. Now is like a great time to just like explore like whatever you feel like. So you can try different genres, you can try different writing styles, just experiment. I mean, that's what I loved so much about college is just trying lots of different things. And, I mean, I went to school for illustration and I did take writing classes, but my focus was on the art in school. And, something that they say a lot in art and writing is, about finding your voice. But I would encourage anyone who's starting out to not worry about what your voice is. Just try different things because you'll discover. I mean, that's what I love about creating, right? Is the discovery in the process. Like when I set out to make a book, I never write the book that I set out to write. Because I discover different things along the way that I want to do. So just have fun. Yeah, that's my advice.
That's great advice. All right, I'm going to end on a couple of would you rathers if you're ready to play. All right, they're very okay. We'll see. Would you rather be a bird or a mountain?
A bird.
A bird. All right. Would you rather have the body of a 25-year-old at age 50 or the wisdom of a 50-year-old at age 25?
Wow. Let me tell you, I'm going to take the wisdom of the 50-year-old when I was 25. You can work on that body later, honey. And let me tell you, I feel great. I'm 40 and I feel a lot better than I do when I was 25. So how about that?
Samesies.
I kind of feel like a 25-year-old with the wisdom of a 50-year-old. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'll end it on this one. Would you rather wear clean clothes on a dirty body or dirty clothes on a clean body?
You guys, okay, dirty clothes on a clean body or clean clothes on a dirty body. I guess I'll put the clean clothes on my dirty body because I don't have more information about these dirty clothes.
That's right.
Did I get them dirty or has someone else with a dirty body taken these dirty clothes off and now I have to wear them?
Right.
That's a hard pass. At least I'll look fresh.
Sure.
And I can always Febreze myself.
Yeah.
Just a little Irish shower.
Yeah.
I can say that because I'm half Irish.
All right. All right. This is fantastic. Everybody out there, please check out Mike's book. It is fantastic. It was so great. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks. This was so much fun.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Let me just wrap it up here. Thank you all for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this conversation with author Mike Curato. Again, we would like to thank our donors, the Library Foundation, our behind-the-scenes staff, and all of you for supporting the library. Please make sure to join us for our next Your Author program with Jose Ramirez. Come join artist and teacher Jose Ramirez on the library's YouTube channel and Facebook as he discusses his bilingual book, Quinto's Neighborhood. Jose's work can be seen locally at Homegirl Cafe, 50 Gallery, and our library's summer reading page. His work has also been featured at the Mexican Culture Institute in Washington, D.C., and on the popular television series The Good Wife. Jose has taught at LAUSD for 23 years and is currently a third grade teacher at Esperanza Elementary. Those attending that virtual program will have an opportunity to win a free book then as well. Until then, thanks so much for joining us and have a great weekend.
All right. Thanks, everyone.